Hello, everyone, and welcome to a very special episode of Dugongs and Rumflagons. This is a continuing effort to see if we can expand our content a little bit. Somewhere landing, somewhere soon, maybe, might be our reactions to The Legend of Vox Machina, where we review and rate a amazing D&D show that is based on a campaign that for some of us started our interest in D&D. Here, we're going to be doing something a little different. It's a reaction / let's play to, what is the game called?
Subnautica.
Subnautica. Background on this, both Aaron and Andrew have played before. I have not. Francis is largely a video game noob, except for little game movies and let's plays. So I haven't seen it before. We're going to be giving you our genuine reactions to the game itself and gameplay and trying to throw in any ecology, marine science, or marine conservation fun facts. Right? That's the plan?
Yeah. We also have Aaron's husband, Joel, here to comment on the socio-economic
Hello,
things.
I'm not a scientist, I'm an economist.
You're an ist.
He's an
That's an
ist,
ist.
so let's hit play.
So that should... Yeah, that's
Well, can we talk a
Wait.
little bit about the game itself
Please.
before we jump into it?
Also,
So-
before we begin, sorry.
Go ahead.
If you like this kind of thing, we're trying it out. If you want more of this, let us know. We'll try to do more stuff. This is very exploratory yet, so we don't really have a format nailed down. But again, if you like it, we'll get a format nailed down and do more stuff. So with that, let's get started. Can you guys give me some background on why you guys so desperately want me to watch / play this game? What's up?
Well, first, go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm just gonna say, it's a really great game. I played it, and then I made Erin play it because she's a marine biologist, and yeah, it's a really great game.
It's a great marine biology game.
So, just as a little bit of background, like this game was first announced in 2013, but it didn't actually come out till 2018. So they took a long ass time to actually develop and release this thing. But the creators of it were heavily influenced by Minecraft and heavily influenced by scuba diving, even like James Cameron and like ocean depths. So they were trying to hit all of these different elements around games, ocean, and exploration, and they were trying to do a game that was not like a shoot 'em up game where you had to like kill stuff. There's a lot of like harvesting fish and resources, but you'll notice it's not like you gotta shoot the big enemy to defeat it, which is kind of an interesting take on this, and something that really spoke to me on it.
So is 5 years an actually really long time to develop a game? That sounds like, I don't know, maybe I'm thinking of more massive or more in-depth RPG type games, but like
Well,
that
from
seems
announcing, yeah.
okay, so normally they've been working on it for a while before they announce
Yeah.
stuff. Okay.
But it was also a very small studio. This was practically an indie game.
Yeah.
Which there's indie games are one of those things. They're usually either amazing or terrible, and this is one of the ones that's amazing.
It's super amazing. I got into it like a year or so ago, and I played it within like a couple months because I couldn't stop. I just had to finish this game. I built in this. It's both like an exploration and discovery game and a base building game, and I built so much that like it slows my computer down each time I play it.
All right. So any other background, or are we ready to hit play?
I'm ready to hit play.
All right, Aaron, give us the countdown.
3, 2, 1. Start new game.
This game is so pretty.
It's a gorgeous game.
Is there a narrative like
There
plot?
is.
Because I'm seeing a
Yeah.
spaceship.
There's a plot. There's a
Yeah.
spaceship.
Okay.
And
okay.
it is told in a kind of a free-form, unfolding
Wait, does
way.
This is gonna make me. God, I'm so uncool. Does Minecraft have a plot? I thought you just
No,
built stuff.
No,
Not really.
Minecraft does not have a. No,
Okay.
it does
Yeah.
not have.
Largely
No.
no plot.
Any plot has been added subsequently.
Let's put it this way: you can beat Minecraft, but I wouldn't say it has a plot.
Oh, you mean like that? Yeah. Anyway,
Yeah.
so you start off here, and you are in this escape pod, basically, because your ship somehow,
There
for
it
some
is.
reason, is exploding.
There it is.
there's okay.
Exploding.
This is going well.
Right.
I'm looking around this. Oh, well, we have a fire extinguisher. Oh God. This seems no. That's bad. We don't. Oh no. Yep.
Oh, you got hit in the face and knocked out.
Ooh, and there's a little glass splitty thing. I did observe before our escape pod started exploding and is now very badly on fire, which seems not good because one of the items that flew around looks to be our fire extinguisher.
Fire bad.
Fire
bad,
indeed
especially in space. Especially in space. Or underwater. Also equally bad, by the way. That's one of the like worst emergencies you can have in a facility like Aquarius, which is the world's only undersea laboratory and an underwater habitat.
Somewhere you have been.
So what we're seeing... Yeah, sorry, go ahead. You want to talk about Aquarius? Because basically you can build an Aquarius in this.
I mean, awesome. We'll be probably heavily relying on anecdotes from that, so much so that y'all might be bored listening to me talk about it. Am I talking over important info?
No, not really. So we're showing what we're showing right now is like the interface with the inventory, any type of upgrades or information that you get from the game, and you're gonna see all those little like weird little not iPads around that will share with you, cool lore or things to look at. But now we're coming out of this escape pod, looking where we are.
Yep.
I saw some sort of flying mobulid looking thing.
Yeah, there's like flying manta type things.
Yeah, mobulid ray. I did notice our little escape pod didn't seem to have a lot of resources in terms of food and water.
I don't think we start with any.
There's a little food, isn't there?
Yeah, you have a little bit of food and a little bit of water.
A little bit of food, water, and a flare.
Just in terms of an emergency outfit, probably more of that.
Well,
I would think.
What's different about this game is that, or this world, is that they've evolved to a point where there's certain technologies that allow you to like.
Ooh, what was that?
We're underwater.
I know, but what? Okay, so we're on some sort of
Yep. So this is our escape pod.
Looking thing.
And just to go over.
What was that animal?
There's so many animals, or animals, just to actually say real.
Mostly fish.
Real words.
The coral reef looks there looks like there's a lack of reef building corals here. Interestingly, what's happening? I mean that's my initial impression. There's a lot of rock structures. High rugosity. A lot of structure happening here.
Yeah, a lot of rocks.
But also a lot of sand, and this looks like, honestly, if you would dive on a reef today, that's like looking struggling a a little bit.
Whoa, you already have the graph trap right there?
Well,
that's a fragment.
It's a fragment.
Sorry, that looked like a pufferfish. What did we just catch?
That was a Gary fish.
So in your right hand currently, you're scrolling through different fish that you've already collected. And one thing that's really cool to me about this game is that it presupposes a future where you are not reliant on animal proteins. In fact, if you read some of the descriptions, when you take some of the fish that you catch to create food, because if you don't eat, you die. It says
really just like real life, Andrew.
Yeah, right.
Just like with people.
But if you read like the descriptions, it says you might not be used to this and you might find this disgusting, cooking an animal to eat it for sustenance. So it presupposes a future where we don't rely on animals for food.
Okay.
But with all of this, again, you're exploring. You're supposed to scan your surroundings and everything you meet to learn more about it, and with this item thingy you can turn the stuff that you find, including fish and other resources, into usable items such as water and base building materials.
Yeah, it's very much like a Star Trek food synthesizer, only you have to feed it the materials, and then it takes raw materials.
I do recall an episode of Riker being very smug, being like, "Excuse you, we don't harass animals anymore to kill them. That's cruel."
I think he actually says enslave animals animals, which
I
is
think he did. He used a really I don't remember the
Copper ore
word
to make a battery.
exactly that he used, but he used a very inflammatory sounding word. But I was like a little bit judgy about your future resource availability, Riker.
I'm sorry we don't live in a post-scarcity world, Riker.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Jeez.
It's really making it our fault here.
Must be pretty nice.
Yeah, and you can see on the bottom left there that the different resource gauges, including oxygen, health, food, and water.
I need to find.
So are these little bits of our spaceship?
Yeah, so
These
the
are- yeah.
spaceship exploded, and these are all the pieces.
Okay,
Yep.
can we just talk about some of these fish really quick?
Yes, let's
100%,
talk.
yeah.
That's why we're
Yes.
here. Look at this little
Okay.
bugger. Oh, he's so cute.
Okay. That's
It looks
actually
like a nudibranch.
adorable.
It looks like a
does.
nudibranch mixed with a
He's
with
got
a,
scales.
a skate.
Yeah. This
A
is very
skatey
clearly
rank.
a skate, but it's colored like a nude rank, which is really cool looking.
It even
I
has
did,
the, like,
however,
antenna
very specifically, I want to take issue with that thing that looks like a damselfish, but then was swimming way too fast for a damselfish. Like
Well,
that.
it's an
thing
alien
was-
damselfish.
Yeah, Francis, this is an
Look,
alien
then it-
world.
Then it shouldn't be shaped like that. There are reasons that
Maybe
fish
there's
who
some
swim
convergent
fast.
evolution here. Is
Oh,
you
yeah.
saying damselfish are slow? Is it not a good design?
Yeah, because when you're a damselfish.
Oh,
look,
run
there's
away,
certain-
run away, run away. That's an exploding fish. For some reason, there's a species of fish that explodes.
This is a terrible evolutionary plan.
Okay, so
They
let's.
guard sulfur.
Oh my god. Okay.
Actually, a bit of a
There's-
video game
what's-
thing here. It's actually
what's
better
happening?
now to run towards them because it used to be you wanted to run away because you could outrun them. Now you almost want to run into them because they can't turn very well, and you're better off.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's a fair. Like they've made some quality of life changes the past couple of years.
I also haven't played the Sub-Zero one, which I need to play
Just
at some
very.
point.
It's shorter, but it's still fun. It's more of this, and that's what I want.
Sorry, Francis was having an existential crisis
She
about
was.
the.
No,
I'm sorry.
I wanted to talk about form and function here.
Form and function, please. We're a science podcast.
Right. So there are a reason that certain kinds of fish
Paper.
are shaped certain ways. So a lot of times fish who are intending to be pelagic or fast swimming will have certain body shapes because that body shape works well to do that with. So very specifically, if you look at the shape of the tail, or the pectoral fin, which is the tail, and then that little area right before the pectoral fin, which is called the caudal peduncle.
Peduncle.
Sorry, not the pectoral fins, the caudal fins, so the back fins. And then the little area right before that, which is called the peduncle, specifically the caudal peduncle, which is one of the funnest English phrases to say.
It sounds
That
made
is
up.
beautiful.
It does sound made up. But that caudal peduncle, it'll be really thin, and the tail will tend to look forked. Not always, but a lot of times fast-moving fish will have that setup because it works well. Damselfish sometimes can have that, but that damselfish, I wanted to get a better look at it because it was moving
This
very
one?
fast and did not look like it did.
So,
It
can
looks
we
like
point
it
out-
looks like a straight-up butterfly fish with like a paddle tail and a really wide, flat, brown body, and I was like, that body shape shouldn't move like that.
So
That's weird
we're
looking.
we're speaking specifically from an Earth-centric perspective of Earth evolution with Earth water. We don't necessarily know that this water works exactly the same as Earth water.
Well, it's water.
It
By
could,
definition,
it
it's
could, it could,
H2O.
yeah, it could have a high
different density.
salinity. It could have all
That
sorts
then
of
it
differences.
shouldn't. So there might be slight density differences, but it's still moving through a fluid. Should
And
lead
our
to
our
certain.
character seems to be swimming fairly easily through it. So
I mean, it looks like you have fins based on your silhouette.
Can we talk about the
Also, this
manatees or
person needs to
dugongs?
swim less with
Yeah.
their hands.
So yeah, eventually you get like better fins and stuff like that. But in this area that we are currently in, there's also these like dugong manatee type
Yeah.
things.
Yeah,
That-
the ones that fart.
Yeah,
There.
they release toxic spores, which
yeah,
is like a fungal thing, and I never really understood like how that worked.
I like to think of it as some kind of symbiotic situation,
And maybe it's like a little spawning,
or
or maybe they're inking. Are they
what
inking
about-
like a?
what about
It's toxic to you, so it could hurt
Well,
or kill
Yeah.
you.
So lots of toxins are in certain animals are actually acquired from food sources. So this will happen a lot with
Like the Galactus nudibranch.
yeah, with like nudibranchs or frog species will actually get the toxins in themselves that are bioaccumulated. So they'll eat stuff and kind of steal the chemicals in them to build toxins. You've also probably heard that's the reason why flamingos are pink, right? If you don't feed flamingos the red shrimp that has that pigment in them, they won't be pink.
On this planet grows in unusually distinct and diverse
So
ecological
it would be
Further
totally
study
biologically
recommended.
feasible for those things that look like dugongs except with just a weird pod as the back flipper, which it has to make movement energetically complicated.
Yeah, they do seem fairly cumbersome.
To then be eating some kind of algae and then getting a toxin from there and then making the little sort of ink when they ink at you, that little toxic ink.
Is it
Might
called
be-
ink if it's not ink colored?
Is there
Like,
a scientific
maybe?
distinction for ink?
That's what I'm wondering.
Not that I'm aware of, but
So
that doesn't mean it doesn't exist
I was
because
gonna say,
Francis
it's
doesn't
science.
know
There's
most
gotta be.
things.
So like
The world has a
if
set of
it's
facts in them, and I am ignorant of most of those facts. I know a lot of facts, but I'm still ignorant of
If
most
you
of
know
the
the
facts.
scientific definition for ink, please tell us.
like I'm just wondering, does it
Okay,
have
this thing that you're scanning is gorgeous.
He is
Oh, yeah.
lovely.
And yeah,
This-
one of
and
the
this is
few
not even-
dangerous. Yeah.
It looks like a little pipefish sort of thing, but the
that
fin
thing
is
He
a
bite me,
mammal
I'll leave him alone.
orientation.
he bites you and it's hard and it hurts, but it does have teeth that are apparently useful. In my game, this is where I built my base, was in the kelp forest, because I am obsessed with the Monterey Bay Aquarium.
Damage to the Aurora's drive core.
This
Sustained
does not,
during
however,
flight.
look like the kelp forest that would be the base of the kelp forest system and the Monterey Bay Aquarium, which is giant kelp or Macrocystis styrifera.
If you go back to the kelp forest where you like at the bottom, it looks a little bit more similar. It has similar aspects to it, but it's not going to be a 1-to-1. It's never going to be a 1-to-1.
No.
I got lost.
We're enjoying a displaying of some bioluminescence.
Oh, there's a
Maybe
lot
it's
of bioluminescence in
And
this game.
some of this also looks like some of this looks like fluorescence rather than straight up bioluminescence.
Well, I mean, we're not projecting any type of like UV light on them. I don't think.
Okay.
I could be wrong, but it could.
I
But
mean,
it
just
does- but you're
color-wise,
right.
it looks like that.
No,
Yeah.
100%. It looks more like a fluorescence than a bioluminescence. So I totally
But
agree.
we should probably explain the difference between the two.
Please do.
No, ridiculous. We all know that.
Okay, so the difference between bioluminescence is something that is producing its own light. And it's a biological organism, hence bioluminescence,
Usually through a chemical reaction.
usually through a chemical reaction of some sort. Fluorescence is when something is not producing its own light. What it's doing is it's taking in light and changing the wavelength of that light. So you might be shining regular, just sort of light in the visible spectrum or UV light on something, and then it will emit light in a different spectrum than you shined it at it.
So like
and this is common with quite a few things will fluoresce. Corals very
Sharks.
famously do it. Certain sharks do it.
a lot of
if you-
deep sea animals for some reason.
The platypi
Weapons were removed from
can
standard
do it a little
survival
bit, I think,
blueprints following the
under
massacre
certain
on
very
Praxis
specific,
Prime.
mostly laboratory
The knife
conditions.
remains
I
the
think.
only-
I think-
I have to double check that. But I remember that fact because someone was like, "Hey, it looks like Perry the platypus because it's now bright green."
So I actually, if I recall correctly, humans have a similar situation too, where we actually have spotting or patterns on our skin that.
It's you can tell the UV damage that's been done to your skin if you
No,
look at
beyond
your
that,
skin.
it's actually like here. Let me look this up before I tell tales out of school.
I probably have been, guys. Probably an important caveat. All of us have expertise in some kind of field. We are, however, doing this on our off hours, and because it is rum flagons, we may be consuming a cocktail or two.
No, never.
So please do
speaking
not
of which, I was
use
about to step
anything
away
that we
for,
say
for-
as gospel. This is an important jumping off point for your curiosity, not necessarily a good primary source. Please
24
conduct any information consumption responsibly.
The
That's
24
really
flirt-
important. Sorry.
No, that's
Consider
about the
disguising
Are you
the
making food right now?
I
meat
am.
with
I cooked a
salt
little
or
fishy.
locally sourced herbs and
That's like a little
spices.
weird Star Trek replicator situation. You just put in food and then it's like, I have taken the protein and made you a meal.
Yeah, it basically
Pretty
just
much,
cooks
yeah.
it. You can like see it. It just the fish comes up.
But you can also like add salt to make it tastier and better for you, and like certain fish give better nutrients and better.
I
you know,
mean,
all sorts of
presumably
things.
salt is one thing that we're not gonna lack in this
It's-
situation.
It's a resource we can gather here.
It seems. Is this not water with salt in?
It is.
Is
It
this
is.
not
We have to
It
find
is,
it.
but like we don't have the technical abilities to actually pull it from the ocean, because there's not like we haven't found any type of shoreline to distill it or anything like that.
I mean, you could just take any piece of cloth and then hang it on top of your floating thing.
Well, why don't you go into the game and tell the dude?
I mean,
person-
that's how you do it, right? In very basic scenarios, you just soak something in seawater and then let it dry and then brush off
That's
the
good to
salt.
know.
For all of
I mean,
you
it's-
listening at home, if you want to make some cheap old salt and you live near an
For
ocean,
all of you stranded on
Look,
desert islands, if you
There's
wanna
ways
make
that you
some
can
salt,
maximize this. Like you can legitimately there is, you get sea salt, they get big drying surfaces where they'll wet it in seawater and then, or let it flood and then let it dry. But yeah, you can also get a little tiny bit of salt by just being in salty seawater and then drying it, preferably on a large surface that you can then dry and collect.
come here, you.
Also, these fish should be. So can we talk about the eye, because this brings up,
Yes.
if I'm looking at an organism and trying to make guesses about its ecology based on its form,
hold on.
that eye on that thing is gigantic. So what's happening?
So
do we think?
obviously it's a very high photoreceptor that needs to. It's on its side, so it's probably a lot of predators around.
On a prey
It
item,
needs-
yeah.
Yeah. So it needs to.
So I would argue that's maybe a bad. If there's a lot of predators around, you want to look like you don't have a giant eye, because that's a really easy
Or
thing
is
for
it
a predator to look at.
Or is it
Assuming
a
we're
defense
of individual.
mechanism, like in
Maybe?
butterflies?
Maybe that's a false eye, or is this an animal that it looks like right now we're in a very shallow reef with lots of light? Oh my gosh, look at this little thing, this little squid thing.
So the scanning, when you scan stuff, you got to keep in mind that
What?
it's,
Oh my god, it's got legs. Hey, oh, you have split fins. This explains why you're having trouble swimming very speedily.
again, you get better fins later.
Split fins absolutely roasted.
Shots fired.
Shots fired on split fins.
So at a certain point, I would love for Francis to see some of the scan results, like what shows up in the library. You don't want to do that when you're underwater, because again, you have limited oxygen.
So you're just breath hold diving, right?
Yes, we are
And-
just. Well,
Lovely.
Right now.
I did.
No, she has a tank.
Oh, maybe
that's
they're
like
not
you do.
split
Standard
fins.
tank, which holds a limited amount of oxygen. I have a little over a minute.
First of all,
Actually,
it absolutely
refill
should
myself.
not be oxygen. It's got to be air.
It is
It's-
air.
Okay,
air.
thank you.
No, I'm just refilling at the surface. It's not processed or.
And it doesn't magically refill itself every time you get above.
You don't have an air compressor? Or the
Well-
air compressor is built in?
I'm gonna
In this
assume that the
sci-fi
air
future?
I'm gonna assume
be
that the air
sci-fi.
compressor is built in, because again, as Joel said, as soon as you hit
Or maybe they're not
above
split
the
fins.
level,
Maybe they just have a little black thing on them.
you're
Yeah, they should
you're
be
spending a
black.
lot of time
Okay.
analyzing the fin design.
Look.
in this.
Fins?
I love it. I'm here for it.
This is why
I'm a
I
scuba duba diver, and I'm a little bit of a dork about it, in case that has not been extraordinarily obvious.
What? Again, my favorite part of this, besides like the exploration is super fun, but once you get into like the base building bit, that's my jam. Like
Oh,
I
yeah.
wanna I want to build a cool, comfortable base with like a rec center and all sorts of.
A rec
Oh yeah, you
center?
gotta have a rec center and an office and.
Oh,
Do you
yeah.
then
And a
have to
mood
make sure you
pool.
Oh,
win a
yeah.
downhill
Yeah.
skiing competition to save the rec center?
Yeah.
Different
Yes, of
rec
course.
center, but yes,
The
or
exact
either
amount that the rec center is.
either
from
either
like
a
an
dance,
80s businessman.
or a dance off. Like you have
Oh,
to have
yes,
like
also,
a breakdancing competition.
There's
Oh,
gotta be
yeah.
some kind of athletics and artistic competition to save the community. Insert community organizational thing here from the weird
The
businessman
80s businessman.
and rich kid.
You're coming in to shut down my underwater facility. That ain't gonna fly, yo.
And you have to have a training montage as the new kid becomes the expert at whatever
Yes.
it is that you're.
Gotta train underwater, gotta do all the things. So, early game of this, you are using this pod constantly. You are always in this pod. In mid to later portions of this,
I'm
as I
sorry,
keep
did that
mentioning,
just say lubricant?
Yeah,
Oh,
you
yeah.
make lubricant out of the
I guess that would be important for
seaweed,
maintaining
right?
your
Yeah,
pod.
Yeah,
well,
anytime
not
you
just
make-
pod, but
make-
also like making machinery and shit like
yeah,
that, and
stuff
stuff like
engines.
that.
habitat
You eventually get to
builder.
make a giant frickin' submarine, which is awesome.
Oh, the giant submarine is fantastic, especially when you get into like the lava caves and stuff like that. There are black smokers in this game. You don't quite get into much of like the tube worm and thermoacidophils of that community, but it is pretty beautiful and pretty interesting.
So then you have to be deep. Like,
Well, you
Yes.
do get deep. You get super deep.
And I will
Okay.
say, it does. The game
I
does
have
force you
questions
to
about-
create better gear in order to dive deeper.
Oh yeah.
yeah, I have questions about that gear because
It's a helmet.
that's it. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. You did not just say that.
And at some point, you get a lead-lined suit because you.
I'm
when you
just
go
gonna
back to your
have to.
ship.
I'm gonna have to suspend a little bit of just. I'm just gonna have to
Well,
be like
again, this is a
magic
video
space
game.
technology.
Yeah, it is a video
magic
game, and
space
it's also-
technology.
yeah, with
we
my
can,
magic
we can do
science
it with
or-
just a helmet.
There's a certain amount of
Yeah.
magic science to it, but at the same
Yeah.
time, it's
Well, and also keep in mind there's another situation where like there's the the prawn suit?
the prawn suit.
Oh yeah.
Which is like basically what the hell is it called? Like Sylvia Earle was in one when she went down to.
That's
So it's
that, really fought the alien.
an entirely hard. So it's
Exoskeleton.
an
Yeah,
exoskeleton
exosuit,
suit.
yeah.
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 there's
So
a
how does
specific
that? So is that the fish that was swimming fast?
Yep.
Boomerang.
How? It's
Magic.
shaped so weird.
Aerodynamic. I mean, water
Nope.
dynamic, fluid
I
dynamics.
Hydrodynamic.
That's my
Hydro.
point. I think the fluid dynamics would not work for that. I'm not a
Butterfish.
physiologist, but or a physicist, but
Well, look how
I'm
pretty.
skeptical. And they are actually all of this is gorgeous, and I'm loving the sort of mix matching thing that's happening here with we're combining, a manta ray and a nudibranch.
Oh yeah, there's some lovely animals in this game.
It's gorgeous.
Again, we haven't even
look,
scratched the surface.
The whole point of me this being like a marine science podcast is for us to like nitpick and fact check and give fun facts. By and large, this game is gorgeous, and it's not actually that egregious
So
in
this
terms of
Very
like
plausible.
movie or video game science. So
Except for
far,
the
at
bends.
least.
Yes, you
Yeah,
can't go from
really-
the bottom to the top.
There's no
Really-
bends in this.
There is no
Yes.
bends. Maybe he
That's-
took a pill at the very beginning.
There's no
It's-
nitrogen poisoning.
That solved
It would
that
have to be
Oh.
like it'd have to be like a nano. All right, let's pretend. Let's do this. Let's do this as an exercise. If we were to sci-fi science away, that we could like rid ourselves of the bends and give a sort of pseudo-scientific plausible answer for how to do that with like a magic pill. How would you do that?
Well, maybe we should start with defining what the bends is, in case our listeners don't know.
They have to.
It's a
if you-
very
Not
cool
everyone knows.
Radiohead album.
Yes.
Okay, so the
Earplugs, solved.
bends is, or actually more explicitly, you would want to call it a DCI or DCS, which is decompression injury or decompression sickness, is an umbrella term for a variety of basically ailments that arise out of you consuming gases under pressure. So, wait, are you guys getting background noise from me?
No, you're
No.
good.
No.
Okay.
And the most well known of this is, of course, the bends.
Right. Well, I mean, the bends is also an umbrella term because essentially what happens is when you breathe gas under pressure, there are multiple gases in the air you breathe. It's mostly nitrogen. It's then also a chunk oxygen and then like a teeny tiny percentage carbon dioxide and other trace gases. And not all of those gases get processed in your body. Specifically nitrogen does nothing. It is absolutely inert. But when you breathe it under pressure, more of it gets pushed into your blood and tissues. It's kind of like the way that if you're, and this is sort of a culturally specific example, if you live in the southern part of the United States, when you have sweet tea, more sugar will dissolve into that tea when it's hot than when it's cold, right? If you let that sweet tea get cold, some of that will come out of solution.
It's an excellent example.
So the same thing happens with gas and pressure, right? Under more pressure, more gas is dissolved into your bloodstream and your tissues. If then you come out of that pressure, that gas will come out of being dissolved. And if you have too much gas in your system or come out of that pressure too rapidly, that can cause issues because it'll come out in bubbles in various places you do not want. The other thing that can happen is if, for example, you hold your breath and you're at depth, that gas will expand as you come up, and you could pop something. So you don't want to pop anything, which is why when you're a diver, one of the very express things is breathe early and often. You don't hold your breath underwater ever, if you're breathing gas underwater, because then even if you're out of air and you're at depth, the advice is to breathe out, exhale slowly as you surface, because you don't want to pop nothing.
Total tangent here. There is a excellent movie with Cuba Gooding Jr. in it, and Robert De Niro called Men of Honor about the first African-American Navy diver. And they,
Man, the Navy diver, all the Navy diver stories are wild. Absolute cowboys with safety.
Oh yeah,
Um,
but they do talk about those different, particularly about exhaling on the way up.
Yeah, you gather a lot of also like people who do like ventilation and stuff will be familiar with pressure injuries that arise out of that. Anyway, so DCI is a big umbrella term to cover all of the various things that can go wrong, and one of the reasons it's called the bends specifically is that's a colloquial term that was picked up a lot of times actually with miners who would work deep underground and at pressure, and then would come up and it would have bubbles in their muscles and joints that would cause them to like stoop and bend over. They also had various other nicknames for the other symptoms that would arise, like the chokes, which would happen when gas would come out in your sort of respiratory and cardiovascular system, or the shakes, which would come out in your nervous system.
You know,
so
you use the example of sweet tea, and I'm gonna piss off all of my Texas relatives, but I cannot stand sweet tea.
Oh yeah.
Sweet.
I'm not a huge fan either, but it's a really visceral example of a lot of people.
Oh, it's a really great example.
It's a perfect
day-to-day
example,
lives.
but
So what
I'm a
will
terrible
happen a
southerner.
little bit is yeah, me too. Is when you, it's also another good example is thinking about it like a soda. So if you shake a soda, that gas will come out of solution. And this is an example that I really like to point out specifically for Aquarius, because there's actually a video of actually it's astronaut Chris Hadfield, who famously had that, who when he was in space covered the David Bowie song.
Oh, he's an amazing science communicator.
love that
yeah.
guy.
God, he's so cool. But he has this video of him in Aquarius where he has a soda, Coke, and he shakes it, and when he opens it, it doesn't explode. It barely even fizzes at all. Because it's under pressure and more of that gas that would normally be exploding all over the place is still in solution in the soda.
So can we talk about the animal that we're seeing right now?
I'm seeing a trip.
So yeah, there's an animal. It's basically the Hypnotoad from Futurama, but basically this is an animal that somehow evolved a way to hypnotize prey through chemicals,
It would spit a some kind of
no, like we don't like it
mind
doesn't really
altering
explain.
substance.
Does it explain why or how in the scan of it, or is it?
I don't know. I didn't get a chance to scan it. I was
It's
panicking
hard
because I
to
was drowning.
it's hard to scan because it hypnotizes you when you look at it.
Like I always thought it was just
So
from
it's
like
not
the
pharmacological?
patterns. We don't like. I would have to
Unclear.
again look at the scan. Right now it's unclear, but like it is this thing that exists
What's
that
that
has.
looking thing? Ooh.
Yeah. They are called
This
droopy.
looks like some kind of
stingers.
Cnidarian.
It seems to be a Cnidarian. It seems to be of jellyfish, but it also seems to be flora instead of fauna. Wait, fauna instead of flora. No, I'm forgetting
Flora
terms.
is
flora.
plants.
Yeah, thank you. It's flora instead. I had it right the first time.
Don't drown!
Flora instead of fauna.
Oxygen.
Oh yeah, you need to go to the surface.
Hey,
Damn, you're
this
being
is why
hypnotized.
swimming in overhead environments is additionally risky when you're diving.
Cave diving is.
I
Danger-
used up all the air in the cave.
Wait.
Did I make
Oh,
it?
okay.
Oh, no,
We're
I
gonna talk about
drowned.
another instance here. Is something called shallow water blackout. So if you're a free diver, which means you're not diving with gas in the water, you're holding your breath. A common, especially if you're somebody that's doing that, not just a little, 10, 20, 30 feet dunk, if you're free diving distances. There's a phenomenon called shallow water blackout that happens for a similar reason to you getting the bends, which is that at depth, more of that gas is in solution. And that includes the oxygen as well as all the other gases. Which means that if you're starting to run out of breath and you're deep, as you actually come shallower to get close to the surface, you have less available oxygen because that's starting to come out of solution. So what happens is you can have enough at 30 feet and then not enough at 15.
Interesting.
With the same amount of oxygen in you, essentially. So that's for extreme freedivers, that can be an issue. To be aware. This is why if you're doing freediving, you do it with a buddy. Just basic safety precautions, y'all.
Also, don't cave dive in areas you're not familiar with.
Yeah.
Or better
For
yet,
real.
just don't cave dive. You
Yeah,
won't.
exactly. If, for example,
God,
alien planets.
I would really love to get some extensive cave diving training because that would be so cool. I really want to do that very badly, but again, it's something you should train. You should train
Extensively
for,
Oh,
and
yeah.
because it adds a lot of additional risk.
Like overtrain for it. Train more than you think you should.
But yeah, it's very cool. Anyway, while we're look, we're just gonna delve deep into some gas laws here, y'all. So my theory, my sci-fi explanation for can I take a pill to solve the bend so we don't have to worry about it in this video game? It'd have to be like some kind of nanotech. So you'd have to have a bunch of little robots in you that are eating all the extra nitrogen.
Can't you just like have some sort of chemical that reacts with the nitrogen?
Or somehow change the density of your blood. I feel like that would have other problems, but it might solve the bends.
So blood is a fluid largely.
Right.
So it's the gas that you're worried about, and it's the gas that you need to be
But it's
breathing
the
for other
gas
stuff.
dissolved
So
in the blood that's the problem, yes?
But humans are mostly fluid. We are water people.
We're basically cucumbers with anxiety.
I don't know. I
you're
think
gonna go back
I
into
think
caves?
nanotech
Yeah, I need to get silver,
provides
bro.
more elegant solution because then you can just program them to release or not release or eat or not eat the whatever gas as necessary reacting to pressure, whereas a chemical would have to be.
So that's
Maybe
sci-fi nanotech. Actual nanotech is can't be as complex as that. It has to have like a simple single function, and it like if you're looking at nanotech specifically for right now, or even what we're just like AI, where say in sci-fi for AI and nanotech is leaps and bounds what is actually possible with the technology that we can even conceive of. So, like, saying I'm going to have this little tiny robot that's going to convert all of this stuff into here, but not convert this other stuff that's super important, is a hard engineering problem.
I would argue it's even yeah. I mean, it's equally challenged to trying to bioengineer some chemical that could do the same job.
I'm not saying it's not. I would say that both are very hard.
Yeah, so this is why, hey, sci-fi people, it's a lot easier to pretend that there's advanced AI and that there's this food replicator, because that's basically a 3D printer. That seems to be more
Much more
plausible than not having the beds.
Well, what's super plausible with this 3D printer model is that it's actually using resources
Right,
instead
so
of
I'm
converting
putting in,
energy into matter.
hey, I give it protein and then it puts the protein into a form. That makes sense to me. That seems that there's less magic in that than there seems to me to be you magically don't get events.
Yeah, it's easy to trick a rock into thinking. The hard part is trapping lightning inside of it first.
What?
That's a caveman definition of a computer.
Sure.
It's
Okay.
a rock that we taught to think, but first we had to trap lightning inside of it.
Yeah, I guess.
Is that a Terry Pratchett quote? That
It
sounds
feels
like
like Terry
might-
Pratchett.
Yeah,
it might
it does.
be.
It's
It's something I
Pratchett-esque.
read somewhere and it stuck with me because it was funny. Oh, actually, I believe it's a rock that we tricked into thinking. Because it's not
Obviously.
actually thinking. I do know there is a humorous Pratchett bit where they build a computer and he has fun with the different tech terminologies and whatnot.
I haven't gotten to that part yet. I don't think.
Oh my god.
I just finished Pyramids.
Oh, that's a fun one.
That is a
it's
good one.
super fun.
Honestly, there are really, I wouldn't say there are bad Pratchetts. There are weaker ones and better ones, but there aren't any bad ones. Oh, there's the rebreather. All you need is mesh.
All
Probably make
you
that right
need
now.
is mesh.
The Anne McCaffrey Dragon Riders of Pern series has some wild sci-fi kind of elements in. I don't necessarily recommend reading them because as much as I loved them as a tween, and God, I consumed those books. Looking back, there are some like deeply problematic elements that are really baked into the world building. It was very progressive for when they were starting to be written in like the 1970s and 80s. And little tween Frances was not quite astute enough to necessarily pick up on all the ways that they were problematic when she was reading them. Much later than the 1970s and 80s, when I was not alive. But
I feel that way about Ringworld. I love it to pieces, but also it is so
yeah, I cannot recommend it for rereading. But it's essentially a world. It starts out when you first start reading the like early entries of the series as a purely kind of fantasy world with these sort of dragon riders who are fighting this like every couple hundred years existential threat that falls from the sky. And it then later in the series like transitions into like actually this is like a post. These are like people who have been like a planet. This is a planet that's been colonized.
Wait. What series is this?
The Dragon Riders of Pern by Anne McCaffrey, which was like a groundbreaking series, especially to be written by a woman. It's like a Nebula Award winner and all this shit. But yeah, it turns out that like this planet, they like bioengineered local animals who could like breathe fire from like little lizards into like full-blown dragons, who have like magic telepathy and teleportation powers to fight what is essentially a space parasite that comes around every like 500 years because of the elliptical orbit, like non-regular elliptical orbit of a like cloud of little like asteroid space parasite things that fall on the planet and consume all the organic matter.
So there was a series I read that followed a very similar trope.
There might have been. Did you have to read it in school? Because there were like certain short stories that were like are actually required reading in parts of America.
This was not required reading. This was like after I read Marion Zimmer Bradley and I needed something else to read as a little kid going to like camp, and it was this series where like a spaceship filled with colonizers or colonists crash land on a planet, and they find these gems that imbue them with some sort of psychic, psionic, magical powers, and then you flip forward 1,000 years later, and it's like medieval times where there's lords and ladies with mystical powers.
Huh.
And like there's like a firemancer and all sorts of other crap or other stuff.
I know. It's around Flagons.
I will say I am a huge sucker for any type of fiction that you think it's one genre and then at some point it's like just kidding, this was science fiction the whole time.
Maybe read Anne McCaffrey then. It really 360s. There is some stuff about consent baked in the world building, because essentially the way the dragons pair off, so if you're a dragon and a rider, you are like psychologically deeply bonded from like an hatching, like an impression at hatching, which means when the dragon mate, people go into kind of a fugue state and mate, and the way that is set up really there's questions about consent that are like kind of addressed a little bit later. And then also stuff about like sexuality and LGBTQ stuff, because like certain people tend to pair with certain dragons, and you're like, okay, but that means that were they gay before they paired with a dragon? Or are they forced to be gay? Or are they like, well, how does that work? And it's a little bit nebulous and a little bit weird. And just don't think too deeply about it, because
questions better left unasked.
Questions abound. But otherwise, there is some interesting stuff, and specifically for marine biologists, there's like several spin-offs to the series where they cover just like the kind of bards of the world who are building the lore and teaching people, and there's also a spin-off about the humans, and way later, like this is like really deep in the series, they discovered that they also brought dolphins with them, like bioengineered intelligent dolphins.
How did they bring dolphins with them?
In the spaceships. They came in spaceships with the people.
The same
and
way
they
that
have
Star Trek did.
And they have lived on the planet during the medieval era.
Cetaceans.
Cetaceans, yeah, it's very Cetaceans from Star Trek. But these
have
dolphins
to say, I love
were like there was a period where like the dolphins and humans were like zero contact for long periods of time, and then like kind of after they're like, oh, we discovered this like spaceship in the Earth and we're learning about our history. They also discovered like, no, the dolphins the whole time have remembered, and we're just like, well, the humans got a bit weird, so we're not gonna we're trying not to explicitly talk to them. So yeah, there are also in my quibble with the series is they have grossly mischaracterized dolphins as like wise and intelligent and largely sociable and benevolent, where in actuality dolphins are largely some of the animal kingdom's biggest assholes.
Jerks, jerks. Yeah. Can we talk about the instrument that Aaron's character is currently using to move around?
Oh, your little ROV
My
thing.
sea glide.
Yeah, your sea glide.
It's not an ROV. It is.
Sorry, yes, that's the wrong term.
All good. It's just that, like, this to me was one of the things of like, not real world because it's not one-to-one, but again, it's just very.
There is a thing you can buy that absolutely is basically this. I've never used one, largely because they seem
clunky.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what the functionality is other than, ooh, I guess I get to go fast for a little bit. Like, it seems largely
You don't
not.
understand how fast I can go.
Yeah, but
You
that's
go very
largely
fast.
not helpful. Like, either I'm just going to be there already and the boat can take me. Like, why would I... Like, anything I would need to go that fast for would be disturbed by my large whirring mechanical sound.
Well, what if you need to
and
go
it's
to a
unhelpful.
completely different biome and find new resources? Or a harpoon?
I mean, in this specific video game circumstance, great. For actual marine biology work here on Terra, not terribly useful. A fun toy, I guess.
Okay, so one of the creatures that we just saw that swam by is like a shark equivalent.
Show me the shark! Show me the shark, Francis. Oh my gosh, what are
That's not the shark.
Obviously.
Okay, no, I'm not.
Like a very large tadpole-looking thing.
Where,
I mean, Aaron, you don't
yes.
have to find the shark. You can just keep playing the game
Also, I wanna scan
narrowly.
things here, so.
This our spaceship really is all over the place.
There it
Oh,
is.
yeah. This thing.
Yeah, sand shark.
It's some kind of
It's
crustacean.
called a sand, yeah, but it doesn't look at all like it. I would categorize that as
It's
a
got
very
little
like.
legs underneath.
I'm not even sure that's a vertebrate. That looks like it might have an exoskeleton to me.
Again, I wanted to say shark equivalent because it's called a sand
It's
shark,
certainly filling that niche.
and it is definitely a predator.
I mean, fun fact, we are still, especially on coral reef systems, which right now we're kind of not really in a coral reef system. This is a little more seagrassy looking
lost
with
him.
whatever that red fan,
Yeah.
the sort of red sea fan looking stuff is.
Like red
Yeah.
seagrass.
I mean, with it being that red, I don't think it's.
Oh wait.
My guess
Can-
would be it's
before we
closer
go down.
to, yeah, you don't want to be
Can we go back up?
a deep well of ecology. Oh no, I thought you
Well,
meant.
before we go there, I just want to
conceptually.
point out these floaty McGigs. Can we? Well, after you get some oxygen or
Yeah, let me get some
whatever.
oxygen first.
Yeah,
Yeah,
get
you
some
only
oxygen.
got 90 seconds left.
Everyone hold your breath.
All right, so see these glowing bits that are attached to the rocks?
Mm-hmm.
For this bit, it's so ridiculous. These things make stuff float. They are a biologic that makes stuff float
And now
for
the
some
rock
reason.
sinks.
Oh. Well, I mean, there's lots of ways that animals control their buoyancy underwater.
Yeah, like bladders and stuff like that, but it doesn't. You're not going to see something that like attaches to a freaking rock and makes it float because it's fun for them.
Maybe
I mean,
there's a very specific
It's not
part of the
biologically
water column they
impossible.
wanna be
I
a part
can't
of.
think of any reason to do that. You could, I think, like biomechanically make that happen, but I can't think of like an ecological reason to.
It's a jelly shroom.
Passing 200 meters. Oxygen efficiency greatly.
Okay, I
You're
want to
at
explore
200
here,
meters?
Yep,
Did they
And
say
your oxygen-
meters?
meters.
Yep.
And your oxygen.
Free, yep.
Damn.
You should build the
Yep.
sea moth before
I
getting
do,
there.
I do. Do I have? I don't think I have enough blueprints. I need to do some more exploring.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I think this red stuff is probably a rhodophyte, so a red algae.
Is it something that's like actually consuming like iron or something?
No, I think it's just red. Well, on Earth stuff is just there are red algae.
There's all those little things I dropped.
Little floaters.
Which, by the way, I say rhodophyte. I don't think that's a. First of all, do I have my term correct? Straight up, and then second of all, I'm not even sure that's a taxonomic thing anymore because algae is just that whole phylum. It was a whole hot mess, and they totally reorganized it because it was just a garbage bin of like, it's not a plant,
This is the
and it
group for not a
photosynthesizes. So woo!
Good job, guys.
But it's been a hot second since I took Psychology 101. Psychology, by the way, study of algae.
I was gonna say, it sounds like you're saying psychology with a lisp.
No, psychology. PH.
Trichology.
Survivor.
Mycology.
You exceeded your weekly exercise quotient by 500%. Data indicates that swimming was your favorite activity. This should vary your routine for uniform muscle development.
I do love how fun that AI is. There's some different things it says that are just hilarious.
Again, can we go through some of the like scan
The
results?
fabricator cooks small
Yeah, let's
organisms
see here.
while disposing of the skeletal structure, bodily fluids, and internal organs, thus rendering them safe for human consumption.
Oh, there's that drooping stinger.
Drooping stinger.
Which is
Hold
the
on, wait,
jellyfish
Zero
equivalent.
photosynthesis. Provides carnivorous adaptations to low environments. Okay. Follicles, long tentacles capable of detecting contact with foreign bodies, triggering it's an electromagnetic charge rather than a chemical charge, which would be the case with a jellyfish sting. So the way that a jellyfish sting works is there are these cells. Yeah.
They're like little spring-loaded diggies.
Yeah, so there are these cells called cnidocytes, which are the stinging cells, which is one of the sort of defining characteristics of that phylum or that taxonomic group. And basically what it looks like is it looks like a little sort of pod with a little hair on. And that hair, it's not really a hair, but it's a little thing that can sense a trigger. And then what happens is that cell turns itself inside out. And there's like a little harpoon inside with the toxin that causes the sting. And that will be included in all kinds of cnidarians, which include jellyfish, and corals, and sea anemones, but only some of them have enough of those present to sting you. So, sorry, did I say corals?
Well, they do also have those stinging cells, so. Blue paw, jelly shrew.
Yeah. They do have those stinging cells. So corals are included in that, although most corals are adapted to kind of have a symbiote in them and photosynthesize. So. And by the way, if you're stung by a marine sting in general, hot water. Any kind of marine sting, including jellyfish, water as hot as you can stand.
Do not pee on it. Stop
pee.
peeing on people.
Pee on it. Don't. Where's that rumor come from? Stop saying it.
It comes from the people who like peeing on people.
I will say, as a child who grew up near my grandparents had a house on a river, and we got stung by jellyfish. We never peed on ourselves.
No.
But I do remember hearing that was the thing to do, and
yeah, no, water. Marine stings, water as hot as you can stand. What that'll do is it'll deactivate the stinging cells and make sure no additional ones fire. If it's specifically a jellyfish and you don't have access to hot water, vinegar.
I was gonna say I seem to recall there being a spray bottle of vinegar that was tossed around.
Very recently, actually, for me, because I was recently stung by a box jellyfish.
Oof! Ouch!
No me gusta.
No. Thankfully, this was not one of the Australian varietals. If it was an Australian varietal, this would be a very different conversation that turns it from an amusing story where I got stung by a jellyfish and it hurt a bunch and I had to spray it, to Francis probably would have had to go to the...
We would be attending your funeral.
It's a hospital visit in Australia.
Right, yeah, if you got that far.
It's a hospital visit in Australia.
Well, Andrew, here's where it's talking about the algae glands in the gasopods.
Gasopods. Not gastropod.
Not
Yes,
gastropod. Which are snails, so why is this not a... It's fine.
It should be a snail. It should be an inflating snail.
It doesn't have a shell. But,
not all well, so if you're talking about mollusca, the phylum Mollusca, which one of the base characteristics is a shell. However, squids and octopi are also part of that phylum, so they have a vestigial shell. So if you look inside an octopus, there's a little structure called a pen, which is the remnants of that ancestral shell. Algae gland. So see, it's an algae that grows inside the sac. Okay, so this is positing that it is, rather than it eating and consuming stuff, that it is some kind of mutualism or symbiosis. Large pelvic fins. Okay, wait, pelvic fins? Did it mean caudal fin or did it mean pelvic fins? Hold on, can I see the thing?
It's a pelvic fin.
That is in fact a pelvic fin, because look, if you look
well
towards
done.
the the anterior part of the body, there is another set of fins right behind the head, which would be pectoral fins, and then that second set of fins there are the pelvic fins, and then the fin that is the tail would be the caudal fin. So yes, they got that right. Well done, game.
Kudos to you.
Bladderfish, this is what I've been making water out of.
It may just be a video game thing. They may be making the eyes on all of these things large. Is there some kind of like longer night cycle for these are these animals deep and they need a larger photoreceptor to capture all the light?
Yeah, I don't know. It might just be a video game thing.
Fluid intake.
I am.
So, I mean, we could talk about light and the way light interacts in water.
Yeah, do that.
Vital signs stabilizing.
I'm going to make some water.
Okay. Do you have a desalinization thing on here? Is that how that works?
No, I have bladderfish that I put through my processor, and it pulls all the water out.
But surely that water would still be filled with salt.
Not in the fish, it's not, obviously.
That
Yeah,
makes zero sense.
Well, I think I'm not actually sure this is salt water because the other thing you do to make clean water is bleach, which would do nothing for salt.
So then where are you getting your salt?
On the floor.
Salt deposits.
There are actual salt deposits, so I believe this would be fresh water.
Okay,
Well, no,
that...
that doesn't make sense. Salt deposits in fresh water? Does that make sense? That doesn't
Well,
make sense.
one of the things that is interesting about this is that when you get into the deeper biomes, it does have like ocean lakes and stuff like that, where you
Which
have
are real things that happen.
Yeah, which should be like deeper salinity and stuff like that. Like I don't know. This should be a salt ocean. Like it really should be, based off of that
Yeah.
water fluid dynamic.
This game has to answer some questions. For me on that route. Yeah, so that's... Anyway, water and light. So water interacts with light differently than air, which sounds like a really stupid obvious thing to say. But
What?
yeah. So
Different densities have different things.
Wavelengths of visible light get absorbed into water quite quickly. So pretty quickly as you start to descend in water, you start to lose these shorter wavelengths of light, starting with red, orange, yellows, greens, and then, eventually all you can see are kind of blues and violets, which is why deep sea animals are often red, because that's basically an invisible pigment in the deep sea. Or they're
Which is
just
funny
dark.
because
Or they just absorb all the light possible and are like, sort of, what's that new black color that guy invented and won't share with anybody?
absolute
Venta
black.
black.
Venta black.
Yeah.
Oh.
Venta black.
Ooh, something's happening.
Emergency.
God, there was some really cool talk about optics and deep sea stuff.
There was a fish that was recently found in deep sea that was like absolute black.
Yeah, and this is actually one of the researchers who does a lot of that optics and deep sea work with vision and light came and gave a talk at my university a few months ago. Oh my gosh, what is happening?
Our spaceship exploded.
Again?
Yep.
Yeah, the nuclear reactor went critical.
There was a challenge
So
that
why
we
are we
hypothetically
near
could
it?
have done there.
We're too close. If that's a nuclear explosion,
Well, that's why we need to build a
Problem.
radiation suit. One of the things that this game does is it gives you a clock of stuff that you have to do within a certain amount of time. And one of them is if you don't build a radiation suit, you will gather radiation from the ambient area and die.
Aurora, I'm out on the far side of the system. It's gonna take more than a week to reach your position. Do you still need our assistance?
Use
Over.
some of that lead
I'll
to
try
build
them
your
again
radiation
tomorrow.
suit.
Damn
I need
sure
fiber
it's gonna have
mesh.
us blowing our credits running errands.
so do you have iodine? Because don't you use iodine? Aren't you supposed to have to use iodine for like acute radiation exposure?
Yeah, there's plenty of iodine. Just go find it. So,
Iodine's on salt, right?
What?
I mean, we
Well,
put
artificially
iodine-
added, yes.
Yeah, we put iodine in salt.
I don't think iodine doesn't normally turn up in salt. See,
No, I
okay,
was
I have
making
questions
a
about
joke.
the seaweed. How's it floating? Where's the little?
There's pods
floaters.
on top.
a
Yeah.
little? Is there?
Well, it's more these things.
Where? Oh, okay.
But,
Those are they're like
I was assuming there's some
sea
kind of pod
bladders
in
or whatever.
here, but it's
I
not
didn't
clear.
see some at the. I was looking at the base like you would see on giant kelp, and I didn't see any.
At the base.
By the way, the base of a big thing of kelp is called a holdfast. In case you're at a very boring party and you want to make no friends.
What do you mean? That's awesome.
That's how I
some
make
people
friends.
have that. Some people have that tattooed on their knuckles.
A holdfast? The
Yeah.
base of Okay,
That's
the
a,
base of kelp is called a holdfast. Like, how many
Across their
letters do
knuckles.
you need
Yes, that's
per
what he said.
knuckle?
That was a Bosch reference. 'Cause I do love that show.
It was actually a Master and Commander reference,
Nice.
but close. Twiggy. My dog is trying to get my
Were
attention
there
'cause it's
knuckle
having food.
tattoos in the movie Master and Commander? The one with
yeah.
Russell Crowe?
Remember when they have to do the trepanning
No.
slash brain surgery on that one dude who like gets hit in the head and stuff like
Full
that?
disclosure, have never seen the full movie Master and Commander.
Boo! Boo earns. It's a beautiful movie.
I prefer Horatio Hornblower personally.
Horatio
but-
Hornblower
That's
is legit.
Russell Crowe in, which makes it a bummer.
Yeah.
Why do we
Sorry,
hate
I'm
Russell
not trying
Crowe?
I'm not trying to put him on blast.
Why do we hate Russell Crowe?
I don't know.
Uh,
Maybe we weren't entertained.
I was thinking about Mel Gibson. That's the guy we don't like.
I do not
yeah.
like Mel Gibson.
Nobody
for various
does.
reasons.
And now I put on radiation suit.
And now you are fully protected from radiation for some scientific...
Obviously.
maybe
No
I'm just
radiation
salty at
gets-
him because he was so bad in Les Miserables.
We don't talk about that movie?
Yeah.
Mel Gibson was in Les Miserables?
No, Russell Crowe
Yes,
was.
yes, and that's why it was so bad.
It was hilarious joke.
This is fun.
I'm having fun. I hope you guys are enjoying me playing this game.
We should, like, next time try to stream this and have, like, guests
Yeah,
or
yeah, we
viewers
should.
comment
here's-
on it.
So here was our idea. We might, I guess we're airing this whole thing largely without editing because it's a let's play. But our idea was that maybe we could get a Patreon level where people could tune into the Discord and in our specific like watch party or let's play channels
Yeah, yeah.
as like a certain level of our Patreon stuff, and then we can put out sort of edited or
Leave me
abbreviated
alone.
versions
Sure.
for our general audience.
That crab shark won't leave you alone.
But full disclosure, we did spend a lot of time talking about Aquarius after the last Vox Machina episode with very little provocation. Truly, there was only the slightest hint of water, and I was like, Aquarius.
Do you
And
know how
decompression
jealous I am
segment.
of that? Like, I had a hangout. I had a hangout that I put together with Fabien Cousteau when he was down there to do a live broadcast. It was for Google and all this sort of stuff, and it was fun. But
We've talked about this, and besides, look at me zoom through the water! Zoom! So fast.
anyway,
You're not appreciating
like
my
Steve
zooming,
Irwin.
Francis.
all I could think of while I was doing this hangout with him was like, God damn it, I wish I was under there. I want to be in there. What the hell? How do I get in there? And I still have not found a way to actually get to there. But we want to go to
I want to go to there.
If you were an educator,
Where the fishies are.
and you're a
I
teacher
wanna
or an
see-
educator, we do oftentimes when there are scientific Aquarius missions, which are few and far between, to be honest, because it's difficult to get the funding to do those. But there is oftentimes they'll be paired with some kind of outreach effort, which includes often a teacher under the sea, which means that if you are a diver and you have the training and you're also an educator, there's a possibility that you can basically be a scientific diver and help out on those missions in addition to a kind of communication role. So
Yeah, I've actually chatted with one of the former.
was it Roy?
It was Roy.
Oh, he was on my mission.
I like Roy,
Roy's
but
great.
unfortunately things broke down in that, and I tried to get this like student side of things. So like, one of the things that I wanted to do was to put together a
I
nationwide
can't believe you
competition.
talked to Roy. What a weird, like, 6 degrees of separation thing.
More like 1 degree at this point, right? 'Cause...
No, I mean, that's my point. I lived underwater with a man for 7 days.
Yeah, but like Francis, like I part of my gig for the last 8 to 12 years has been hustling in ocean conservation spaces, trying to make.
I know. I just tend to think that I'm so, you know.
You're not special, Francis.
Francis,
Oh,
you
wow.
are very
Yeah, that's
special.
my point.
Francis, no,
You,
Francis,
you are
you are
hugely
very special, and your relationship with Roy is very different than mine, right?
I
Like,
mean,
I have a very superficial
You
one.
probably talked to him more recently than I have. I don't think I've talked
maybe.
to him much at all since the Aquarius mission,
Maybe.
which
Anyway,
was many years ago.
so right now we are seeing signs of exorbitant amounts of ocean snow, and
Is it, or is it
silt.
just is this just? I mean, just the vis is bad. There's
It's
some
the vis is
upwelling
bad.
here. Yeah,
I don't know if it's
water.
upwelling or if it's from the actual
Oh, it's
nuclear
just-
explosion that just happened.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. I thought just maybe this is a place where, hey, like, look, the bottom is sandy and it's silty, and we're shallow. Oh, we're not that shallow.
No, this is next to the ship.
So
It's
you
just
see,
thrown up
you
all
see,
the
Wait,
silt.
okay, so this meter to count, there shouldn't be this much light at that depth. Even, especially with the viz conditions like this.
at 28 meters.
I mean, well, we were at like 70 or over 100 meters just a minute ago when I first said that. Which, by the way, meters are not yards, but if you need to do a rough translation in your head, they're a little, you know, they're like slightly longer than a yard, and a yard is 3 feet. So if you're trying to do the metrics in your head here.
Welcome back to our conversions podcast.
Just what all the people tuned in for.
Yeah.
30 seconds.
One of the things
But yeah,
about
there's
this
something bright
area,
for that.
one of the things about this area that we are currently in is that if you go a little bit to the left, there is death. There's a giant.
Death.
There's a giant. Like.
Yes.
You talk about megafauna. Like this thing is like.
One of the
giant
biggest
So
creatures
my point is,
in the
okay,
game.
we're at like 10 meters here. We can barely see our hand. Well, we can, you know, we've got
and from
maybe. And when I say that, it's pretty good viz. But we're at about 60 meters here. That's over 200 feet of seawater. We're deep. We have a lot of red light here that we should not have. And honestly, I was like, we can't be that deep. Look at how it looks. And that's.
One of
Is
the
this like
things.
the steering wheel? At the bottom
It is
of
a
Well,
the-
steering
that
wheel.
is a part, specifically a part for what's known as the Cyclops, which is the giant submarine that allows you to get to the deeper parts of the game.
You get
And
a
I will
giant
agree.
submarine, Francis.
I will agree, there is not that much realistic.
Oh no!
What's happening?
no!
That is a giant
That's
death
the
thing.
thing.
That is one of
This
the
looks
things.
like a cough. Oh, sorry. Excuse me.
I'm gonna
That
die!
looks like a little bit like a bonnet.
It's a giant swimming. We don't call them worms anymore, do we?
I don't know. Do you not?
Yeah, because of the association, we don't call them bobbit worms anymore.
What association?
Bobbit worms are made of nightmares? I don't know what the association is.
It's a benthic. It's Lorena Bobbitt, who was someone who very famously cut off a man's genitals.
Oh no.
And-
Oh,
Yeah, and we're supposed to call it a sand striker instead of a bobbit worm. No.
I mean,
Okay.
okay, cool.
not a remove your genitals worm.
Oh
Or
yes, battery.
Or a emotionally and verbally abused woman worm.
Yeah. Look, anyway, common names are common names. There's a reason we have scientific names, is because common names come from all over the place, and they can refer to, the same common name can refer to multiple different animals, or multiple different common names can refer to the same animal in terms of species.
That's why we
essentially-
should call it Eunice.
Yeah, well, actually that's the genus. You really should call it Aphrodites.
Yeah, I like Eunice.
Ditties? Ditois? I have never actually had to pronounce that common name. So you
Scientific name.
should call it by your specific epithet, which is when you have a scientific name, there are two parts. The first part refers to the genus, which, if you remember your high school biology, is the second lowest classification, right? You have kingdom, family, order, genus, species. Misclass, oops.
And phylum.
Yeah,
Keep
and
ponds
phylum.
clean
King
or
Philip,
fish get sick.
yeah, or King Philip came over for good soup, or as one of my more amusing college professors put it, dumb kids playing catch on freeways get smashed.
Ah!
I mean, that's true.
But it's the G. It's the G there. It's the second lowest. So, and then the second half refers to the species name or the specific epithet, which is supposed to be unique. So Unisaphidoides is not a bobbit worm, is a sand striker. But anyway, they're these marine bristle worms, and they live in the sediment, and then they have these horrifying jaws
Oh my
that come
gosh.
out. If you're familiar with the Mass Effect series, the what's the big crazy animals on the I'm forgetting the name. Tuchanka? The Krogan planet? Those are basically big space bobbit worms or sand strikers. That's exactly what they look like. That might be a deep cut.
Yeah, I'm not that familiar with what you're talking about, to be honest.
Mass Effect is
I'm familiar with Mass Effect. I just haven't played that portion with the.
Look, part of the reason we're doing this whole series is because Francis doesn't play video games, and I'm only familiar with games from watching Let's Plays and stuff, which means that the video games I know tend to be narrative RPGs, which means I'm basically familiar with The Last of Us, Mass Effect, and Dragon Age, and that's it.
Dragon Age is fun.
Aurora, this is something again. We just picked up a
But
massive...
Sand
Specifically the
Strikers.
more recent one.
Sand Strikers are specifically one of the only things in the ocean that I am terrified of, and they're not that big, but
They
like.
can't hurt you though, really.
Are you
They're
kidding me? Have you
terrifying.
they grab
They're-
full-on fishes and pull them under? They
I'm
gotta
saying
hurt.
that you, Andrew, in the ocean, have a very low risk of being hurt by a bobbit worm and not
What
even
happens
being
if
hurt
I?
that
What
badly.
happens if I step on a sand striker? What happens?
I mean, you'll bleed bad.
Yeah, I don't want that.
But I'm saying that there are way more dangerous things. Be scared of something. I mean, be scared of whatever you're scared of. But
Sharks
I
don't
would-
scare me.
I wouldn't be scared. Like, truly, a box jellyfish in Australia would be the thing to worry about. Or an Australian saltwater crocodile, if you run into one of those.
Oh well, crocodiles and
scared of those.
alligators definitely. Yeah, those are fossils.
Look
like,
at this
help.
pretty boy.
Is that an animal?
Yes.
Called a reefback.
Is it just... It's just a big, slow-moving boy.
Yep.
He just
I
vibed
think
it.
it's supposed to be like. Is it supposed to be like a cetacean allegory, like a giant whale? type
Yeah,
thing?
like some kind of analog, whereas the cetaceans
What
have...
are his little tentacles doing? I'm not understanding the physics of this.
It's kind of somewhere between a cetacean and some kind of large manta ray.
It looks like a mushroom. It just looks like a big floating ocean mushroom.
It's a peaceful, gentle
But
giant.
it's even got gills.
Yeah, look at these like valves and siphons and stuff.
Well, how else would it breathe?
So this looks like a. So if I had to make a guess, I'm thinking this is some kind of mollusk. Like it looks like a big, like a
Oh,
clam.
run away! Run away! Run away from the tiger plant.
Look at the Christmas tree worm.
Yep.
I mean, it's not a Christmas tree worm, but
No,
it's a
but they
Christmas tree
call
worm.
it something else.
they
but
made it a
it's
plant
but
here,
it's an upside down Christmas tree.
And this is also like another type of two worm looking thing. So again, you're never going to find a 1-to-1 in this game, but like it's close enough so that it's like this is an alien species, and they tried to think of the evolution a little bit, but it's obvious that there were some things that were missed.
Full disclosure, I haven't seen the most recent Avatar movie, but just the original Blue People Avatar movie to distinguish it from Last Airbender. 90% of the alien beautiful things in that movie are just
It's just ocean stuff.
barely, thinly veiled ocean stuff. Like the thinnest of veils. Like all the glowing little worm things, it's just a Christmas tree worm.
I also had this
And I
problem during that
remember
movie.
that came out when I was like in high school, or middle school. I was pretty young. But I remember seeing articles at the time being like, people are depressed because they'll never see anything as beautiful as James Cameron. The
Go
Avatar
underwater,
world.
people.
And I was like, it's just underwater. Go diving.
Seriously.
Well, Andrew, where do you think we should build our first base?
I mean, obviously, I'm a big kelp fan, but there's other biomes that are better.
Better. Like, what are our parameters here?
So you want access to food and resources, and those resources can also include power, right? So one of the reasons that you want to build higher is that solar becomes a very viable power source.
You can't get wave power?
We
No,
cannot.
there's no wave,
Really up.
Wave power.
there's no wave power in this, which is silly.
Suspicious.
There's nuclear, there's bio, and there is like geotherm.
Passing
And
100
Ooh,
meters.
here's
see,
a good
we're
cave
so
system.
deep here.
Efficiency decreased.
That is pretty.
This is so deep to be diving just you.
What? You're telling me you couldn't survive 100 meters below?
300, which is over 100 meters, is well over 300 feet. That's like 300 and hold on, I can't do the conversion in my head.
I think I'm just gonna plop down here unless you think you have a better spot.
Do it.
Oh wait, there's a thingy. I wanna look at the thingy.
You already did that one.
Yeah, that's number 6.
Incorrect.
Yeah,
Yeah, if you
100
already did it.
meters. See, I was right. I should have had confidence in myself. It's 328 feet, which I was gonna guess 330 because it was like 3.3-ish is the conversion there.
What would the environment be at 330 plus feet?
I'm not saying this environment is inaccurate, except for the amount of red light. Like we cannot see red unless you have like a secondary light source that you bring with you at 300 over 300 feet of seawater.
Which you do have. You have like a spotlight that you can use that.
Yeah, but just the ambient light here seems to me to be far too colorful. Like over 100 meters, we're well over 100 meters here. We're still seeing oranges and yellows a little bit. Even the green is quite bright. Like that's pink. That's full. Like you cannot see pink. And
Oh,
that's not. We don't have a spotlight on that.
So we're about to build our first.
I need to find a
base.
piece of lead first. I didn't think to grab some.
Ooh,
Where did you get lead?
there's
Oh,
lead.
just in rocks.
Obviously.
Yeah.
You don't have to refine it at all.
No. All of these rocks, you just
This
hit
is
it.
a real Gilligan's Island paradise.
I am
we have
surprised
going
that
here.
there's not like coconuts that you can do stuff in.
We can't build a multi-purpose room yet.
What do you need? Oh, you don't have the ingredients
30
yet?
seconds.
I don't think she's learned it yet.
Oh, that's rude. I got all excited. I wanted to build a base.
Well, now you have to put a buoy here. So
So this is interesting. What is this? What is this? Is this some sort of flotation
yeah,
buoyancy
it's a
device?
buoyancy thing.
Okay, that's cool.
Instant surface machine.
Instant bends.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Truly wild.
Want to
See,
die
we
from the
can.
beds?
It
Here,
should
click
be
this
red.
button.
Meters. Oxygen efficiency decreased.
Yeah.
Die from the bends like your friends.
Well, we can put down one of these.
Yeah, I mean the environments are totally normal. Like you could get corals this deep, although if you would get less light building corals at certain depths, obviously, because there's less light. But this is not. It doesn't look weird in terms of the environment. It looks weird in terms of just like they have not programmed into this game the way that light and color interacts with.
I really
The
cannot
depth.
wait for you to see some of the cave systems and some of like deeper stuff. Like especially the what's it called? Because one of the things, and not to ruin this game for you or anybody watching.
I'm clearly not tracking the plot very carefully at all.
Well, we haven't
What
gotten
is
to
this
plot yet,
little
so
spinning skate? Okay.
We haven't even gotten to the plot
we're
yet.
just surviving right now.
And part of the plot is that
30
there
seconds.
is, or there were other people who found this planet and built little habitats before you arrived. Aaron, what's funny is that throughout my entire playthrough, I never used the buoyancy device.
Oh man, how did you get to the surface?
Oh, wait, is that still a
Swimming.
ship that's smoking, or is there
No.
volcanic activity somewhere?
There is like a little mountainy thing, and there are some like surface habitats that you can go to, and again, that's also relatively plot.
This does seem like a lot of effort. Unless we're like, there's not a land option. It does seem like really resource heavy
Acquired.
to not. To be like, I'm gonna decide to build my base
Underwater.
underwater. Like that seems like a lot of work relative to like I will survive on a floating thing.
Yeah, there's.
Look,
some
I
issues,
understand.
right?
Look, the video game's got a video game. You know, we got a plot. We got a video game. I'm willing to forgive it. Sins, such as the feasibility of. Oh, I love these little jellies. Those are so cool.
They're lovely.
Aren't they pretty?
They're so gorgeous.
Again, there's just so much prettiness in this game that like it can totally fill the hours. I've gotten to the end point, but I haven't had the heart to stop building and go off
30 seconds.
planet.
Off planet?
I have beaten it
Well,
before.
that's
You
it,
can
It's
go
that's
back
games.
up into space?
Well, that's
That-
the end of the game.
That's the end.
You're,
of the
you're
game.
surviving here all by yourself. Eventually, you can
I mean, you
escape
get-
and get
you
back
get-
to civilization.
Okay.
Yeah, you're
Yeah.
not trying to Robinson Crusoe it. You're trying to like
You're not intentionally in isolation.
no.
Yeah, one interesting thing
Not
about this
to bring
game.
up. Is anyone watching The Last of Us?
I haven't yet. I need to, especially with the Nick Offerman bit. I'm really excited about it.
I haven't even like watched the full episode, and I'm still heartbroken by it.
I tried playing that game and I cannot get past the giant undead thing in the school gymnasium. That's how far back in the game I am.
I don't even know where that is because I only again watched like the game movie / my roommate play it. But
Any watchers watching this can totally call me a noob. I don't care.
I'm just gonna say that that Nick Offerman episode is very beautiful.
Nick Offerman is a national treasure, and so
He
is
is a
his
gem.
wife.
Yes.
They both are just like fantastic. And if anybody listens to like Books on Tape, they both appear in this one book called
30 seconds.
Oh, you're showing
Lincoln
your
and Margo.
age, and I'm showing my age by not like immediately reacting to that term as odd. Book
Oh,
on tape.
sorry.
It-
Audible. If you listen to Audible,
an audiobook.
You know,
Yeah.
it took me a little while to even understand, like, what is she talking about? That's what.
oh, that's not something
Nope, that's
normal
super
for
what
the
I
kids
did.
these days.
Yeah,
That's right.
that's-
They
well,
used to
that's-
be
that
literally
mean-
on tape.
If that means, yeah, you literally, which by the way, my earliest audiobooks were in fact books on tape because the Harry Potter.
Yep. You go to the
Yep.
library and get like a whole bucket of them.
Oh, we had we had to buy them because we would put them in the car. They were for
Yep.
the whole family. We would argue over who got to listen to them, and get the we had
Instead
we had
of
to buy,
awkward conversations with my dad, we just sat there and listened to Harry Potter on tape.
Yeah, towards the end of those last couple book releases, we would have to buy no fewer than 3 versions. We would have to buy at least 2 versions when they came out because otherwise they would be really horrible fights in the family about who got to read the copy of the book. And then also that we would eventually get the book on tape so that we could all listen to them together in the car. So yeah, we my family And also, this is not an endorsement of Harry Potter or J.K. Rowling.
That's a different thing.
Yeah. All right, so here we are inside of your first habitat. It is generating oxygen because of the solar panels that you put on top, and here is your fabricator.
Wait, do you have a little
AKA
umbilical? Do you have an umbilical?
No, it's making its own oxygen.
It's making its own oxygen.
But
But
Again,
how is it connected to the thing on the surface?
It's not
future
connected.
tech.
to the
It's
surface.
not.
So then how? So okay, so the
Totally. It's pulling the oxygen from the water.
okay,
I believe.
you're getting enough energy from a tiny little solar
Yep,
panel.
that's all you need.
163 meters. Absolute.
Yep.
Okay. Okay.
love
Space
it.
magic. It's space magic.
It's
It is.
fine.
So again, this is like super
You can't get
efficient
enough-
space age materials,
Okay.
hyper silicon. You know,
Hyper silicon?
I just made that up.
It's
I don't
just
know.
more silicon.
It's hyper. It's like quantum silicon that allows
get
it to
Hydrogel
Yeah.
at some point.
No,
hydrogel.
this is absolutely your technobabble is perfect. It's Star
Thank
Trek.
you. Thank you.
Absolutely reverse the polarity of the neutron flow in your quantum silicon, my dude.
And that's how you get hyper silicon.
That,
Right.
kids, is how you make hyper silicon.
Right.
You can do it at home with these easy steps.
Yeah.
That's the something off the deflector shield or whatever it is.
And your
Give it more power.
your trilithium crystals or whatever.
But again, you can get very intricate with this base building. Did you already build a moon pool?
No, I don't
I
have
do-
the blueprints for that yet.
Wait, so how are you entering then? You're entering through a water lock?
A water lock, yeah.
That seems more complicated. That seems way more. A moon pool is just a hole in the floor.
Yeah, 100%. But
How
we
is
like,
don't
that
have
less
one yet.
complicated than a
We
water
haven't
lock?
made it yet.
No, I
you haven't
understand.
found the
I'm
thingies
just
yet.
I'm questioning the order of operations here because surely a hole in the floor is simpler than a water lock, which involves a lot of pressurization and mechanics and valves and stuff.
What do you know from a hole in the floor?
God, there's not even 2 stages. It's a single
Nope.
wild. Absolutely wild. The physics of this are insane.
No, you just open the door and you can walk outside.
And
It's
it's
fine.
fine.
Yep.
I have a passenger on board. Coordinates attached.
Wait,
We've landed
there's
a
other people
kilometer from
here?
the crash site,
Yeah,
but
that's
there's
all those
radiation in
other
between
escape
us and the
pods I've been
rendezvous.
checking out.
Request
It's been the other
immediate
people who
assistance.
have been here.
6 out.
They also
Signal
crashed.
coordinates
First
corrupted.
of all,
Approximate transmission origin recorded to date.
What, you thought that giant ship only had you? That's very self-centered.
no, I thought everyone else died because I haven't seen a single other human person.
And you're probably... And just spoiler alert, you're not gonna see any other person in this game.
So I thought that everyone else was just dead and we were just looking at a lot of shipwreckage.
The game makes you think, oh, you could save these people. There's
It really
totally enough
does.
time.
You could totally save these people. Oh, can I make a booth
Wait, you
yet?
can't? They all
No.
die?
Yeah.
Yeah,
But then
they're
why
either
do they even bother having them be
They
alive for you to
tease.
worry
for,
about?
for plot?
Oh, I can't make a beacon.
That's not even plot, that's just stress.
Alright,
Jeez,
everyone
guys.
remember where this is.
Do they make
Yeah.
you... Do they make it a moment, or does it just like you just...
You just
get
slowly
audio
start
messages and then you
realizing
just...
as each one you go to rescue and you hear the little recordings. And then
Oh,
you
there is a moment. I would definitely say there is a moment with
Okay.
the.
Then just look, if you're gonna do that to me, like, you know, make a moment out of it, make a meal of it, but just being like, it's another audio recording, it's another audio recording, we didn't want to animate a person, feels cheap.
Well, not to spoil anything, but you do get to see a whole person in the sequel.
What?
A full person?
A whole person.
Wow.
What?
And there's a sequel to this game?
There is.
Yeah,
it
it's
is.
the
It's shorter. I want to say it's like a fourth the length.
That
But,
rock formation looked like a person from far away. Because a little floating rock.
We
it looked
just
like
want
someone...
to dream.
Francis, I think you've been alone in the ocean a little too long.
No, it looked like a little cartoon person being like doing a sort of optimistic fist gesture, like yup, from the back.
You can survive
yes.
this. Totally.
I'm seeing people everywhere. This happens so badly. My isolation. Wilson!
Oh no.
again, I can just like this game is just such an interesting concept, and like it's not like super science oriented. It's not going to be like something like Game Foundry's Infinite Scuba, but it is a fun game to get people interested in like, oh, I want to learn more about how to how these different bases work, or I need to build this base so I can survive.
Actually, gamifying the logistics of the bends would be boring and frustrating.
Yeah.
I will tell you that playing Infinite Scuba, it does gamify the bends and actually teaches you about the bends, which...
No, do you get little tables? You gotta do little dive tables?
I forget. It's been a while since I played, but I'm friends with the people who make it.
I hope drinking water would make enough room for that big thing.
Yes, the best part of games. An inventory limiter. Your carrying capacity. Oh.
Right, go.
Oh, this ocean is very green. Very productive.
Well,
more importantly, where's my thing?
We assume.
Which thing? Did you lose your base already?
Yes.
No, oh, I thought you were
Oh,
talking
the
about
vehicle bay. So this is a funny thing to me, is that
I think you have to do that closer to the surface.
you do. You have to release it closer to the surface. The funny thing about this is another one. What are you? You have to equip it.
I have no idea what's happening.
So this bay that she is about to put out there and put out there and launch. Sorry, that's the word I was looking for. Is a bay that you see the little drones will 3D print you giant ass ships like a submarines and things like that out of the materials you bring in, and it's completely ridiculous. It doesn't make sense, but it's fun.
So I need lubricant, power cell, and titanium. Power cells are just okay, batteries and silk. But once we get the sea moth, we'll really be happening. We'll be cool kids.
So what's up with the day-night cycle?
It's a day-night cycle.
There's a day-night cycle.
It exists, that's it?
That's it.
Yeah, I think that's it.
Hey, Aaron, your inventory's full.
I don't know about that, but I think my inventory's full, so I'm gonna go back.
Did you know that your inventory's full?
I did not, thank you. But I think my inventory's full, so I think
I
I'll
mean-
take care of that first.
Yeah, you
I
need
didn't-
to empty your inventory. It's full.
Okay, you're saying like this is super obvious. I have no idea how you would know that.
It
Oh, I
says,
tried to
and-
pick up more Vine, and it had a little alert that came up.
Okay.
That's all.
This is Officer Keenan, Life Pod 19. The captain is gone. I have assumed command. The last thing the captain did was give me coordinates for dry land. We regroup 1.5 kilometers southwest of the crash site. Stay together and good luck. This message will now repeat.
Rendezvous coordinates corrupted. Transmission
Oh, that's
origin
useful.
coordinates downloaded. Signal location uploaded to PDA.
What do the anemones give you?
Oh, those things I just picked.
Mm-hmm.
They have acid in them, and I can mix them with copper to make batteries.
They look like anemones.
They do. They call them mushrooms, but I agree they look much more.
They're basically anemones. Like, that's
It's-
the only thing I could think of.
It's got to be a common name.
You know what's super fun about getting old? and being 40?
What?
Having to watch your cholesterol levels.
I wouldn't know anything about that.
I mean, it's the problem everyone wants. Get old. Too glass. Dang it.
I want the problem of staying young.
Yeah, is there a painting I can buy to just keep in my attic?
Seriously. Let's get on that.
Except for there was a man bored out of his time.
Who was? Oh,
Oscar Wilde. I feel
Oh,
like
yeah.
Oscar Wilde would be killing it.
Oh,
well,
dude.
not just that, but also like he lived in an era. He would have been fantastic and fabulous today, and he was born in an era where he had corporal punishment for being who he was.
Yeah, but also he still lived like fabulously
Oh yeah.
when, not on a prison island.
Either the drapes go or I do.
What was the one about? I'd rather have a man with a past than a woman with no future, or something like that. He had a lot of zingers.
What was
He had
it?
a lot of
It's,
zingers.
one can never be overdressed or overeducated. Something like that. Maybe I'm making that up.
We'll just attribute it to him.
My point was, Oscar Wilde was an absolute icon, and
Unappreciated
like-
this time.
yeah,
Usually.
I feel like if
I mean,
if
they
he had
made him
access,
tone Dorian
if he
Gray
had
down.
access to, if Oscar Wilde had access to internet culture,
Can you imagine Oscar Wilde on
Oh, dude,
TikTok?
he would be.
oh,
owning
my
it.
point.
Just be him.
That is why TikTok was.
Yeah.
The memory of Oscar.
Just his reaction videos to like stuff other
Safe
people
mode of
posted would
transport,
be.
but remember
Yeah.
that swimming is good for your
Seema.
glutes and endorphin levels.
Endorphin levels?
Yeah, exercise gives you endorphins.
That's right.
Endorphins make you happy, and happy
And
people
happy
don't
people
kill their
don't kill their
husbands.
husbands.
I
They
love-
just
Just
don't.
Welcome aboard, Captain.
I am a happy clam.
I do like how, speaking of airlocks, you get into that device by fully opening the cockpit and then just getting in, and yeah.
Where is?
So are we
Uh,
discovering an empty life pod now?
Yep.
And you might need to move your mic a little closer. It's a couple times hasn't picked you up properly.
Can you hear me now?
Oh yeah, there it is. Much better.
I like the little floppy sounds it makes when you run over fish. I'm sorry, fish. I'm sorry, fish.
Oh no! Aaron, why'd you point that out? No!
She did that on purpose.
The sea moth is a very fun, build. It's zippy.
It's a good name too. Well named.
I'm gonna
I
get
think
out
I was
this-
quite annoying some of my compatriots with on my last sort of field thing, where I was observing the names of some ships, where we were in Hawaii, and being very critical because look, they did a bad job. They did a bad job.
Can you give us some
nominating the ships.
examples so we may also
Of course I
judge them?
can. Of course I can. There was a company that shall remain unnamed, which was a tour company that had a couple sailing vessels, and one of them was named like the Hula Girl, and what was the other one called? It was called like Shangri-La. And I was like,
Oh wow, weak.
these feel bad and culturally appropriative. Do better.
At worst, they're basic.
At worst, they're basic.
I mean, or yeah,
or
they're.
at best, they're basic.
You're,
At best,
you
they're
could
basic.
try harder.
At worst, they might be
worst,
culturally
yeah.
offensive.
Offensive.
There was another one, and this was less of like a bad name straight up and more of like a missed opportunity, was a ship called the Trilogy 3. And then I later learned there was in fact the Trilogy 2, and I was like,
Wait,
no.
What?
No.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to check us out in our next video where we will explore more crazy, random, cool things at the bottom of this fake ocean.